Today we're going to talk about box and whisker plots, which is a category of statistics and probability. When you look at a box and whisker plots, the reason it's called a box and whisker is because there's always a box in the middle that's cut somewhere, and then it has a whisker on each end. And that gives you the shape that you see here. It also gives you the 5 numbers. A lot of times box and whisker plots could also be called 5-number summaries. And the reason why is because there's 5 significant numbers that you can pull from these. You can pull this number, which would be your minimum or your lowest value. This number right here at the end of the box is your first quartile. The number in the middle is called the median. The number at the edge, this edge of your box, is called the third quartile. And the end here is called the maximum, or the highest number. So you have the lowest number, first quartile, second quartile or median, third quartile, and maximum. And that's where the 5 numbers come in. So we're going to talk not so much about how to make them today as how to understand what they say and how to read them. So let's look at an example with a number line underneath so we can really see what numbers. Notice that the first number, the lowest number, the minimum, is 20. So that would be the first number in our 5-number summary. The second number, which would be at the edge of the box here, looks like it's about 21 3/4. The median, if I come straight down, looks like 24. The end of the box here, if I come straight down, looks like it's about 26.5. And then the maximum is 28. So we can find the 5 numbers, the 5-number summary, relatively simple. But what do they mean? And that's going to be the big part here. What do they mean and how do we use them? The way you read a box and whisker plot is very similar to thinking about money. You know, from the beginning to the end, it's 100%, or like a whole dollar. And each of the, like the whisker and this half the box, this half the box, and then the whisker, each represent 25%, or a quarter of the data. So this is 25%, 25%, and so forth. Again, adding up to 100%. And it doesn't matter if the box and whisker plot looks uniform like this, where each part looks the same size. No matter what the box and whisker plot looks like, it's always 25% for each section. So look at this example. This from here to here is 25%. Also from here to here is 25. And 25 and 25. So even if they look stretched or shrunk or condensed, they still represent 25%. So what does that mean for us? So from here to here, this is 50% of the data. And from here to here, this is 50% of the data. And it might not look like it, because look how this looks like it would be a bigger section. But it's still 50% of the data. And that's how you read these box and whisker plots. That's the key. The major concept here is that each part is 25% of the data. So let's look at our first example here. The question says, about what percent of lakes in Minnesota have fewer than 23 houses? So have fewer than 23 houseboats. So if I go to 23, and I draw a line, and I'm talking about below it. They want to know about all of this data. What percent would that be? And so if I look at it, this part of it is 25, and this part is 25. So that means altogether it has to be 50% of the data. So half of the houses, or half of the lakes in Minnesota, have fewer than 23 houseboats. So let's look at this question. It says the box plot suggests that Olga served fewer than what number of aces during about 75% of tennis matches. So if I think about 75%, that's 25, 50, 75%. So I'm going to mark it again, 25%, 25, and 25. So from 10 down would represent 75%. And then from 10 up would represent the remaining 25. So let's read the question again. The box plot suggests that Olga served fewer than what number of aces during about 75%. So that would be 10, because most of the time she served fewer than 10, right? 75% of the time she served fewer than 10 aces. So the answer would be 10. This example is going to be a little bit different because it has a different question. It says the box plot suggests that about 25% of gyms have more than what number of gym memberships. So if it's 25% more, then that means it's 75% less. Okay? So if I'm going either way, I can do 25, 25, 25. So this would be my 75% mark. So from here down, it would be 75%, and then from here up would be the remaining 25%. So depending on how you read it, it says 25% have more. So that would be the last 25%, because 75% would have less. So if I'm reading my graph correctly, which I'll erase this a little bit, notice that when it comes down, it looks like it's right here, which is halfway in between 68 and 72, which would be 70. So the box plot suggests that 25% of the gyms in Shaneville have more than one number of gym memberships, which would be 70 members. This question is also a little different. Notice they don't give us a box and whisker plot, but they do give us the 5-number summary. So we could create our own box and whisker plot. So let's create it. So right here, the minimum would be at 3. Let me go ahead and make this a different color. So I'm going to draw a number line here. It goes from 3 to 18. And I'm going to mark some key points here. So I've written all 5 of the numbers on a number line, and I could mark these 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and I could keep going. I don't really need to, because the major things that I care about are the 5 numbers given to me. Oops, I erased the wrong one. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my box and whisker plot over here to the 7. I keep creating my box until I get to 13. I draw a line at the 10, and then I create my whisker over to the 18. So I can create the box and whisker plot from the 5-number summary. Again, this represents 25%, 25%, and so forth. So now when I read the question, it says, about what percent of quarterbacks in the British Football League threw more than 13 touchdowns? So again, if they throw more than 13, then less than 13 would be the other percentage. So if I'm looking at 13 right here, that's at 75%. So 75% throw less than that, and 25% would throw more than 13. So the answer would be 25% of quarterbacks in the British Football League throw more than 13 touchdowns. So now I want you to try one by yourself. Let's take a minute and read this. It says the 5-number summary for the number of touchdowns thrown by each quarterback in the British Football League is shown in the following table. So it goes from 3 to 18, the median being 10, the first quartile being 7, and the third quartile being 13. About what percent of quarterbacks in the British Football League throw more than 13 touchdowns? So try this one by yourself and see how it goes. So what we know is that, oops, there we go. Okay, so this is 50%. So 50% down this way, 50% up this way. And then I could cut it again. This is 75% from here to here, and then 25%. So if they're asking us above 13, then this side would be 25% up and 75% below. So if it's asking us for the more than, it's going to be 25%. So hopefully you got that right. Let's try another one. All right, go ahead and try this one by yourself. Pause the video if you need to. So hopefully you've had time to do the problem and make your selection. I'm going to read the problem. The 5-number summary for the number of stylists employed by each hair salon in Jamesville is shown in the following table. The 5-number summary suggests that about 75% of salons have fewer than how many stylists employed. So again, if I look, this would be 50% and this would be 75%. So if I cut it right here, 25% more than and 75% less than. So let's see what they ask for. 75% fewer. So 15 would be 75% fewer than 15. So you should have selected 15. All right, go ahead and take a minute and pause the video and read and try to answer this question. This question says, about what percent of Carlson High School teachers have more than 11 years of experience? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find 11, which is right here, and that cuts it right here, which is 75%. So this will be 75% fewer than or less than, or 25% more than. So depending on the question, I'm going to be able to answer either it's going to be 75% less than 11 or 25% more than 11. So let's see what it says. What percent of high school teachers have more than 11 years experience? That'll be 25%. Hopefully you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with the material. Let's just do one more. All right, this is our last example before you're going to work by yourself. This one reads, the box plot suggests that about 25% of quarterbacks threw fewer than what number of touchdowns? So 25% fewer than. So go ahead and take a minute and try to solve it yourself before I go over it. If I'm looking for fewer than, okay. All right. If I'm looking for fewer than, then and I need 25% fewer than. I need to go to the 25% mark. And from there down would be 25% less than or fewer than. So that would be 7 quarterbacks. So 25% of the quarterbacks that threw fewer than 7 touchdowns. What I want you to do now is I'm going to assign you an assignment to practice these. And if you have any questions, I want you to let me know.